Group, CEO of 21 Studios, guest hosting today's episode of the Red Man Group Patriarchs, filling in for Hunter Drew. He might be coming on the show later today. Oh, shit. Whoa. Oh, that was me. I just was like, the fuck's the audio coming from? Sorry, guys, technical problem. Fixed now. That was my own audio playing off the YouTube video. Back to the show. Anyway, I'm filling up for Hunter Drew today. He's usually the host of this style of the show, the Patriarchs edition for fathers and husbands. He's in the hospital right now. His little sister is having a baby, so that's going on. So he might be coming in later in the show today. We'll see. Anyway, it's episode 15, and we're talking about long-term relationships and marriages and maintaining attraction through these things, as well as how to get back into the dating game once you get divorced, something that I've been through myself, even though I'm not a father. Joining me on today's show is, of course, Texas Dom, an alumni speaker of the 21 Convention twice over, as well as a frequent panelist on the Red Man Group Patriarchs. He's been on several times. And today with me, Tim, T.W. Beckett here. He's on Twitter at A Father's Journey, and he also has a website at a-fathers-journey.com. I'll have him intro himself in a minute, but he's happily divorced, a single father. He has shared custody, and he's a kick-ass dude that comes highly recommended from Hunter Drew for today's show. So that said, boys, thanks for joining me today. The only non-father on today's show.
No, I appreciate you filling in for Hunter. I just think Hunter didn't want to show up without the beard. He shaved his beard off, and I'm thinking he's just gun shy now.
I don't even, dude. I see his photo. I don't even recognize him on Twitter and stuff. I'm like, oh shit, who's that?
Yeah, we'll give him some shit when he gets here, if he gets here. So hopefully his sister's doing okay. Family stuff first, right? That's what patriarchs are all about. Family
Absolutely.
First. So.
My sister, of course, too. If you guys didn't see that, had a baby on Monday. My first nephew, so I'm pretty happy about that. I haven't been able to go see him yet.
Uncle Dream.
Yeah, I know, right? So before we get more to today's topic and get into the discussion, all that, Tim, can you introduce yourself to the show, to the fans who don't know you?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Tim Beckett. I am actually a single dad, divorced about 3 years now, and started a Twitter at TW_Beckett, and it is basically designed, and as well as my website, a-fathers-journey.com. It's designed to help guys who are basically coming out of divorce by kind of explaining and showing my life and everything that I did and I am experiencing right now. So it's almost like I'm live tweeting every day exactly what I'm doing, getting back into the dating pool, dealing with single dad issues, dealing with custody issues with my ex, just some of the things that guys are essentially struggling with that I can help them with, and I can get them some information that they really need. So I do a lot of different things. I essentially discovered all sorts of things when I got divorced. I discovered game. I discovered something, I was basically blue pill baited my entire life. And when
How long have you been divorced now too?
About 3 years.
Okay.
So I was, and I'm 43 now. So better late than never, they say, but I actually discovered it. I read about it. I studied it and took it and tried to make something better of my life, and ended up really having some success. And I'm just sharing that with everybody and trying to live my life to show people exactly what they can do. And guys, guys who are out there struggling, we see a lot of guys who are really struggling with their lives after divorce. A lot of these guys are just essentially lost after a divorce. They've just woken out of a coma in the social sense. And so I've been trying to show these guys that there is life after divorce. You see, guys who are committing suicide every day. 70% of suicides in this country are men. A lot of them have come.
Suicide is way higher for men after divorce than women too, right?
Yes. And so these men need help. And so that was my whole design, and my purpose really was to help men who were zeroed out and who were looking for something, who were looking for somebody to hang on to, or tribe even, if you will, but just to give them some guidance, because there's not a lot of that out there for guys who are just getting out of this. So that was my whole purpose.
And how many kids do you have?
I have 2.
Okay.
2 daughters. One is 10 and one is one is 12 and one is 10. So
nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear your story, man. I know I found out, I texted you on Twitter the link to join the show, and I realized we had talked earlier in the year, I think.
Yes.
Oh, this guy, yeah. And your Twitter's taken off, Tim, at over 5,000 followers. That's pretty serious.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I started the Twitter feed back in September of 2018, and really it's evolved. Essentially, it was just a bunch of red pill truths. And then I was just like, I'm putting that stuff out there. I'm going to put myself out there, and I have a weight loss journey that I'm involved in. I've lost over 60 pounds in about 12 months, 13 months now. And just showing guys that if they work at it and they struggle through it, that they're going to be better. So that's been trying to inspire some guys out there to get themselves together.
So I got a question for you. So
yes,
in all your research the last 3 years, things you've been hearing, because I've obviously never been divorced, so I'm the odd man out on that deal. But I always hear people say, you get divorced over money mostly. But the older I get, the more I think about it. I think you get divorced over sex for a large part. I mean, you get like zeroed out in the bedroom, and I know that's what kind of the session today is going to be talking about a little bit. But when that falls away, is it the sex or the money when you're talking to guys? Which one screws everything up?
The sex is what I'm overwhelmingly seeing. There was a guy, I've got several guys now, of course, that when I've done this and I've kind of grown with it, I see guys kind of coming out of the woodwork, especially friends of mine or acquaintances and guys over Twitter who are DMing me. They're saying, hey, your story is really similar to ours. And I tell my story in really blatant, I was a blue pill beta and I was about as bad as they could be. And I was blatantly bad. So I try to describe all the nasty details so that everybody can kind of see that, I came from a really bad place. So that's kind of where, but yeah, it's definitely the sex. And money was never an issue with my divorce or my marriage. And my divorce was kind of triggered by the fact that there wasn't any sex. I mean, I had sex twice in 2 years before I got divorced. So yeah. And I go into pretty descriptive detail on my website about it, just because it was, there are guys who are in that exact same boat, and they're struggling. They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They're begging their wives for sex, and their wives are saying no. So they're coming to me and going, well, how in the world do I, avoid being where you were? And so that's kind of what I've, been seeing a lot of.
This makes a sexier.
I was going to say, it makes a lot of sense to me that you're getting a consistent theme like that. All these guys were raised with the same conditioning over the past 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So it's not surprising. I mean, I imagine money can still be an issue in some cases, but sex is the core of women are so emotionally driven that sex is the cornerstone of feeling for them a lot of ways. So that makes sense to me. Sorry to interrupt you, that text. Go ahead.
No. I was just sitting there thinking. I mean, nothing sexier than a needy beta guy on his knees begging for sex. I mean, come on.
God. Yeah.
I mean,
holy fuck.
So, and I can say that because there were a few years in our marriage where it was starfish mercy sex is all that shit was. And looking back at it, man, it would have been better just to walk away from it. But at the time, you just don't fucking know what you don't know. So
yeah. I mean, all these guys here, going through this stuff, they don't know any better. I mean, a lot of it's just ignorance, and they've been propagandized in the opposite direction. So it sucks. I mean, it's a lot of America though. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's becoming more and more common, and there are guys who are afraid to speak up about it simply because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to go in and say, "Hey, I can't have sex with my wife," or "I'm not having sex with my wife." That they feel like it's a reflection of them, and while it is to a certain extent, there's deeper problems there. So yeah, definitely.
If we could ever figure out how to market this stuff like they market Viagra, because used to be guys were embarrassed to talk about not being able to get a boner, and now it's all over every sports commercial, everything you watch, right? It's everybody talks about the little blue pills, right? We just figure out how to market our red pill version of how to start having sex again, right? As well as that. I mean, God dang, we'd be the
problem with that
guys on the planet.
The problem with that is that exactly kind of it is funny, but what you're hinting at is that people want some simple instant answer, and going through that journey. I mean, your thing is called literally a father's journey, and repairing, your own attitude and personality and things in relation to women. That's tough. And that's tough for pretty much every dude. So they want the instant answer, which is There isn't an instant answer. You can go to a conference, you could take a workshop, you can take coaching, you can spend months, even years trying to figure this out. And it's going to take time. I don't know. I've never heard of anyone finding these ideas and this community and then instantly, within a week, they're all fucking fixed. You have to undo decades of like mild brainwashing you've gotten from a culture that's opposed to you being masculine and being a father and being a proud father and leading your family, and then your marriage and your relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, it was like that. Go ahead.
I was just say, by the way, I saw a panel. I am the divorce guy, and I'll speak to that. That experience of going through that experience and then getting back into dating. But I'm not a father, and I can't speak to that. And I can't even speak either to be like you two can, I think, or better than me anyway. Especially Tex being in a healthier long-term relationship.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was just about divorce too, though. We talked about that before. I mean,
that's right. That's right.
We were about to just call it quits, you know, and it was kind of funny. It's the same thing that guys that have called it quits already are having to do. You start trying to get in shape. You start looking in the mirror and you go, okay, it's the old line, would I screw that? When you're looking in the mirror naked, right? And I had that epiphany, before we got divorced. And so I started working on myself, and oddly enough, she was at the same time starting to work on herself. And of course, that's the only thing that really gets you worried, right? Is when your wife starts going to the gym or your wife starts running or, watching what she's eating, shit's going downhill at some point.
No, that's true. That's actually 100% true. Yeah. Yeah. Upping your SMV is a signal that they might leave, they might exit.
Yep.
So let's talk about, before we get into the maybe more, at least surface level negative stuff, let's talk about the positive stuff. Tex, you've been in a marriage for over 20 years at this point.
Yeah, 30, 31. I guess okay. I'll know if she's watching. Wow. She'll tell me later.
You've been married as long as I have been alive. So.
Yeah, it's pretty scary, isn't it?
And I'll tell you what. Like you just discussed, though, that has not been perfect, but for a while it's been really good. So can you talk to me about the basics of what's worked for you to maintain arousal and attraction in a 31-year marriage?
Yeah, I think that was one of the reasons why the marriage always stuck together, is because we always had great sex. I call it what it is. It was always great. So I think part of it was me and my journey, figuring out how to be more dominant in our relationship. And I kind of preach about dominant submissive relationships a lot for people that have never seen anything that I've written or talked about. It's just what we do, and that turn, taking better care of myself. It's not always just the physical thing, right? It's the mental attitude. It's taking care of the family. It's taking care of your job. It's taking care of your responsibilities. It's basically charging out and leading your team, leading your family. And some women find that to be incredibly attractive, combined with the other things that you're doing. And they want someone to lead, and I think most women really do that. I think there's a bunch of them that won't admit to it. And then there's the rest of them that are like lesbians and stuff. But, it's just kind of the way it is. But it can be a pretty damn good thing if you're doing your job. But at the same time, it's hard as hell to lead. I mean, if it was easy, everybody would have already done it by now. Yeah. Right. So to be able to lead your wife, to be able to lead your family, to be able to do things and make good moral decisions and sound decisions and just do all the things that you're supposed to do.
We
lost Tim, didn't we?
Oh no. Hope I hop back in a second.
Yeah, no problem. But it's just, like I said, man, it's a long journey. We talked about that. It's a long journey. It's 30 something years. We were together before that as well. So you're going to have your ups and downs. You just try to have more ups and downs.
Yeah. So talk to me about the turning point. You mentioned you almost got divorced. That was, I don't know how many years ago, but that was obviously a big turning point probably in your life and obviously in the relationship. So other than like the red pill, like what, spawned that and what kind of changes were made?
Yeah. There's definitely a pretty good blog post that I wrote on my blog. I'll try to put it up later, but we were both, neither one of us wanted to get divorced, but it just wasn't working. Everything was just downhill. And at some point, my girl was basically trying to research how to be happy and that kind of thing on the internet. God only knows, right? No, seriously. Yeah. How to be a happy woman and shit like that. Because she was unhappy. I was unhappy. And she ended up stumbling across this Christian women's submissive website. And she started reading about submissive. This was before the whole 50 Shades thing was really cranking. And she started really reading about that. And she started trying to, I don't know if they had like quizzes or some shit like that, but it was basically, she basically came to me when I thought we were done. And she said, "Hey, look, I think I'm a submissive and I think you should be my telling you, she goes, I really want to know. She goes, I think we've got this wrong. I've been trying to drive the bus here, and you've been trying to drive the bus. We've been butting heads now for 5-6 years.
So basically, she comes up to you and she's like, "Daddy, Tex, can you paddle me?" Is that the gist of this conversation?
Later, it got to that point later. Yeah. But it's real stuff. I mean, and I give her full credit. I mean, had she not had that conversation with me, I don't think we're together right now. Because two people can't drive the same bus; it just doesn't work. Yep. And you got strong-willed people, and people think that submissive women are not strong-willed. They think that they're doormats, and they don't want to be called a submissive because they just look. People look down at them or whatever. But I tell you what, man, she only has to be submissive to one person, me. Everybody else, man, she's a force to be reckoned with. And so, I mean, and that's a good thing, right? But when you got two stubborn people butting heads all the time, eventually you just call it quits until one of them says, "Hey, wait a second." It's like the two, I hate to use the word dogs, but the two dogs in the backyard that run up and meet each other, and one of them just completely rolls over real quick. He realizes they're outnumbered here, type of thing. No, it's good stuff. I mean, it's and we don't take it for granted, and we always assume that it could go south in any minute. And so we both have to work at it and can't take your foot off the gas. So.
In terms of the Dom sub stuff, what do you say to critics who just try to immediately reject that or throw the baby out with the bathwater? And they're like, "Oh, that's for weirdos or freaks, or that's too extreme for me." I mean, a lot of people don't even have a clue like what you're talking about. Almost they 50 Shades of Grey, and that's it.
That's the problem. That movie was so jerked up that when you try to watch it, it's had some kinky stuff in it, and this, that, and the other. But what they don't realize is that Dom submissive relationships are not kinky relationships unless you want them to be. It's more manly. It's almost like how your grandparents lived in the 50s. He was in charge. She did things around the house, kept things going, and that's the way I try to explain it to them. It's kind of like how your grandparents were, maybe your great parents were, back in the day. Because guys ask me, well, how do I talk to my wife about this? I like this idea. And I say, well, you go nostalgia. You start talking about how it was back in the day, and maybe that'd be something to try. And then you gotta pull it off.
Yeah.
Tim, do you have any comments on this in terms of, I don't know what your relationship experience has been like since divorce or previous before that, but I guess post would be the most relevant in this case. But in terms of maintaining attraction and arousal in a long-term relationship.
Well, I would tell you that it is definitely a man's job. I've been through, ever since I got divorced, I've been in 4 kind of longer term relationships, and they were all with, and I've written about this on my blog, they were all with relatively liberal women. And when I first came out of my marriage and I was, jumping into the dating, of course I had a MGTOW phase, which was about 16 months, 18 months. And just kind of, that's when I did a lot of the reading, got a lot of the red pill stuff. And then when I did that, I got into my first relationship kind of about the same time, and I just didn't know what I was doing. So I in every one of those relationships, every one of those 4 relationships were 3-month relationships. And I always call it the 3-month itch is what I call it. And the first 2 were basically me being very beta, and they ended very quickly because these women were very strong and they wanted a man to lead, but they did want a man to lead. They didn't want to be strong. And then my last 2, as I was learning the pill and learning how to kind of the relationship dynamics, well, those last 2, I started to assert myself as the leader of that, as the lead, and do things that a dominant man should do in a relationship. And it was met with, the first one was met with very much some pushback, and the second one was essentially me just putting one that was just breaking up with the other one. And so that was that was probably my moment that I really knew that the red pill was working for me, and that my dominant male attitude was really starting to work, because I noticed that it was working for her, and essentially the relationship was under my terms. And if she did not do what I was hoping she would do, then I could break the relationship off. And that was exactly what I did.
What's it been like going from, hardcore blue pill beta to actually learning these things in real life? I mean, I had a similar transition too, but mine's been a lot more. I mean, I've been in the manosphere for so long that I've had so much interaction with the pickup artist stuff and all kinds of other odd shit along the way. Mm-hmm. It's never been a clean cut thing like I think you've been through.
Yeah.
So what's it been like actually feeling that in real life and doing it and living it?
Well, it's you can notice the transition, because the thing that I really got me going was just PUA and game in general, just kind of that attitude was kind of what I was looking for, and so it was teaching these guys that. So as I've been dating, and I had to stop dating because my daughter was diagnosed with epilepsy recently, so I had to kind of take care of her. So now I'm back and she's feeling better, thank goodness. And she's about a month and a half epilepsy free. So we're watching that, but now I can kind of get back to where I was. But I mean, I essentially just kind of did it by practice. And it was so hilarious because I had such crippling social anxiety that, when I got out of my marriage, I was just like, what am I going to do? So I had to force myself to do things. And it was like, guys are always kind of poking fun at the fact, but these are serious issues that these guys cannot deal with. And it was just about going to breakfast by yourself, or going to dinner by yourself, or going up to a bar and just having a drink and talking to the bartender or whatever. I had to actually just reteach myself how to be social again. Because when you're married in that kind of a situation, I had some friends that I used to hang out with, but it was just me and my wife a lot of the time. And so I just didn't have a social, and I wasn't real social before I got married. So I had to reteach myself. It was just, but it really went well. And as I started to gain some momentum and tried to figure out some things, I keep getting better and better. And it was just, it really got me thinking about what I had. A lot of guys will look back and say, I wasted my life. But to me, it's not wasting your life if you wake up at some point, no matter how old you are. So that was something that really hit home for me a lot.
At the end there, you're basically saying that as long as you wake up at some point, this has been your journey up to that point.
Correct.
Yeah. And obviously it's ideal if you do it younger, but I've heard this a lot in the community over the years. I was always so young, and some of the guys that would attend the conference that we do, that the older guys, like Tex and stuff, they look back at these young whippersnappers at like 25 finding this shit, and they're like, if I only fucking knew.
Yeah.
But the reality is, hey, as long as you find it, I agree with that. As long as you find it while you're alive, then you've done really well. I mean, the younger, the better though too, in terms of like brain stuff, but something about that.
And the key is to, that's one thing that I don't hold back on. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to go through some crap. Mm-hmm. And
I got a question for you. Yeah. I got a question for you. How many of those 3-month relationships did it take you to get through before you realized that women like sex hard?
No, it was halfway through. Actually, it was my third relationship when it was, and she had this 3-date rule, and we ended up adhering to the 3-date rule, but the 3-date rule, all bets were off. And she basically just kept saying, pull my hair. And I pulled it as hard as I thought I ripped it out of her head. And she really liked it. So that was my epiphany. It was really nice too.
I was going to say, because these guys I talked to, and of course I've been there myself. I mean, I'm like 6'4", my wife's 5'2". I outweigh her by a good 100 pounds, right? And so I was always worried I was going to break her. I was going to smush her or twist, break a leg or some shit. And then you come to realize, I mean, they're pretty tough. They can pass a 9-pound baby through their through their loins. They could probably, you're probably not going to break them, right?
Right, exactly.
But no, it took me a long time to figure that part of it out too.
Well, and I'm 6'4", 245 pounds. So I'm a linebacker, and I can pick them up, and they love being picked up. They just absolutely love it. It's like a lot. The woman, the last relationship I had was essentially, she's like, well, no man's ever been able to pick me up. And it wasn't like she was big. She was only about 110 pounds. And I said, well, I can not only pick you up, but I can probably throw you if you're not, And so I could pick her up, and I carried her upstairs, and she absolutely just ate that up. She loved it. So.
Is this your sister? Is this actually your sister watching the show, by the way?
Yes, that's my sister watching the show.
I keep seeing this. I'm like, this is some troll or what?
Family support, I guess. She wanted to watch tonight, so.
Shannon, I have some really bad news. Shannon, your brother has sex, and he has it on a regular basis. And apparently, he likes it rough.
Oh yeah,
dude. Up till about 4 or 5 months ago, one of my sisters lived with me here in Orlando at 21. And she eventually moved out downtown now, so I've been on my own for a while. And I would just bring all these Tinder girls over, and I would just use her for this so bad. I'd never answer the door and shit. I'd be out back in the hot tub. And then I just banged these girls in like 15, 20 minutes flat. And she's just like, she's like, and she would talk to me about it. I'm like, yeah, the date went really good. She's like, Anthony, those are not dates. You're just banging these girls. I'm like, it is what it is, you know? Tex, can you talk to me a little bit more though about, you know, in the years and now you've been living this dom sub life, even separate from that, just for the average guy, whether or not he's aware of that currently, you know, what's maintaining the arousal and attraction over time, other than dom sub stuff, maybe?
I think, you know, people get into this dom sub stuff and it generally starts with sex. They tend to start that way, right? And then the longer you do it, the more it starts to it evolves. This is going to sound blue pill, purple pill, whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't care. The relationship deepens, and you communicate more. There's this unbelievable trust there because you literally have bared yourself to each other, and it's take it how you want. I don't care. But I know that my relationship now with my wife is on a whole nother level than it used to be because of the dom sub stuff, because she's put all of her trust into me. To basically, she has basically opened herself up wide naked and clothes on, and basically, you know, I'm yours, don't screw me over kind of thing, and trusting me that I'm not going to. As far as keeping the arousal going, I think it's a constant game of you know, Keno and stuff. I mean, it's constantly just messing with her head, you know, trying to, and you know, you can have short, quick sex, or you can have like long scenes where you try to plan stuff out and have a long night at it and that kind of thing. And you know, you can't have those every night, right? It's just that would get pretty boring. But hopefully, at least once a week, you're doing something pretty exciting. You're trying to, and even if it's just, I know people say don't Netflix and chill, but trust me, Netflix and chill can be a lot of fun for a while too, and then you can take it to the next level. I'm not going to talk about anything necessarily that we've done lately, but I can say that you just have to. She's living in my frame, and I have to constantly keep inside her head, if that makes any sense. She's always doing something. I ask her to do this, ask her to do that. There's reasons for it. She likes it. She likes to serve. She likes to make things nice. And go ahead. Maybe I'm off track here.
No, this is good. But I wanted to pause and ask you on this. So, and you were hinting at it earlier in the comment here you were just making, your dom sub, this interaction, this relationship is, the longer you do it, the more it expands outside of sex, is what it sounds like. It's her doing stuff for you. It's her serving you, not just, you know, in the bedroom. It's everyone in your life.
There's people that just do this stuff in the bedroom, and it's not that it's play acting or anything. It's just bedroom only. It's what they do. You know, they go in the bedroom, they kink it up, they have a good time. And, you know, he takes charge. She enjoys it. Everybody's happy. Other people live it 24/7. And, you know, here's one for you guys that have been married or in LTR for a long time. Is your girl happy when you come home? She happy to see you? Okay. If you're doing things right, she's probably happy that you're there. She's happy that you came home, you know? And so she's going to spend her time trying to keep you happy too. And so there's this whole thing. I mean, we're both putting out our A game at all times. And yeah, you can't be your A game all the time, right? Someone's going to have a bad night. So we have a bad day. Shit's going to happen and all that. But the other person can, you know, I can walk in and I can read her. I know what I can do. And yeah, I can tell her what I want to do or this, that, or tell her, give her orders to go do stuff. But I also known her long enough to know that she's got a splitting fucking migraine. I don't expect her to go get naked and put on pretty clothes for me. Come on. You know, that's not reasonable after 30 something years of marriage. It's just not what you do. But, and again, she is under my charge. I mean, I am responsible for everything for her, everything, literally. And that's a responsibility I take on willingly. But a lot of people, oh yeah, we're going to have great sex. I'm going to be your dom. Yeah, let's do this. Right on. And then they go, shit, this is hard. This is a lot of hard work. And then they start slacking off and the wife gets pissed because she's putting out her best effort and he's no longer putting out his because it's really hard.
It's a responsibility you're taking on, essentially, to lead and to dominate.
Yeah, man, it's everything. It literally is everything. You know, she has skills and gifts and she's very talented at things. And I will tell her, I want her to use her skills and her gifts to enhance what we have going here. But at the same time, you know, like I don't tell her what menu to plan, right? You know, I don't tell her what to go buy at the grocery store, things like that, because that's kind of mundane, and that's her part of the world. But I just think that there's this deepening thing, and this, I'm telling you, it's trust, communication, respect and love and that kind of thing. And it's a deep ball, and people think they get into it thinking it's sex, and it is, but the sex is just the icing on the cake. It's a lot deeper than that. So.
Well, open to the whole panel. This will be one I think both of you can tackle pretty well. How do we bring life and excitement and passion back into a dead bedroom? Dead bedroom being and there's an entire subreddit dedicated to it, but dead bedroom is where things have died in the bed. And like having sex once a year or something like that, that would be, I think, a good example of that. Some guys, I'm sure I've heard even, worse than that from attendees at the convention and online and stuff, years they'll go without having sex with their wife or something, or in a relationship or whatever. So can you guys speak to that? It's a huge topic, but just some of the basics or the fundamentals of fixing that.
I'd say, to me, I can speak from experience and know that I know what a dead bedroom is like. I know what happens or doesn't happen in this particular case. And so my advice to a lot of guys is to focus on what they're doing and get themselves right. Because a lot of these guys, the reason they have a dead bedroom is because, and I always talk about this, once you get into your marriage and it's about 2, 3, 4 years down the line, and things become routine, things get mundane, things get just very robotic. And it happened with me. And these guys are, going through the same things, and they let off the gas. Like Tex was saying earlier, you've got to consistently be at as close to A game as you can be and your best all the time, or at least most of the time, because you have to you have to lead her, and you have to take on a lot of this kind of this pressure that you have to do. And so if she respects you and she's going to, follow your lead, then what you can do is make yourself an example. But a lot of these guys will go and they'll start doing fantasy football, and they'll start watching sports, and they'll start going to tailgates with friends and drinking and watching porn and all of this, self-destructive behavior, because once they get married, it's like, I'm married, so we're good. We'll just kind of we'll just let off the gas and hit the brake, pump the brake a little bit. And
I got to say, I've seen this just among the social circle stuff, extended social circle, friends of friends. I've seen that these kind of exact phrases and ideas, these dudes will mouth this off after getting married like a year or two later. And I'm like, obviously knowing what I know, it's fucking alarming. I know it's going to blow up in the face, but they say it so casually. They just totally believe it. And it's really common too. It's amazing.
Well, I always like the analogy of they're walking down the train tracks whistling, and they don't hear the woo woo.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like they don't, and then it's like, and then women were like, well, he told me he was blindsided, and it's like, and the guy's like, well, I was blindsided, and you're like, no, you really shouldn't have been blindsided, because look at your relationship. I mean, and I'll just use my experience as an example. Like I said, it was bad. I think within the 6th or 7th year of our marriage, my wife was, and this is back in the time when porn wasn't free, but she let me, she's like, go ahead and buy some porn. And I'm like, yeah. So it's terrible. It was really embarrassing. And so it's like, there are guys that are, it's like, and one of my buddies is like, I have to do that because these guys just don't know what to do. They just, my wife won't have sex with me. My wife won't have sex with me. So
I'll say, if you're in a dead bed, and I have been,
it's
ask yourself first.
All right.
I'm sorry, say again.
It's possible to fix these, right?
Oh, hell yeah. This is tough. This is my first point. You have to ask yourself, look in the mirror and say, do I want to fix this? Okay. And that's shitty. That's a shitty question to ask, but it's a lot of hard work, especially you've gone down that road for 6 or 7 years. This is going to be a lot on you to try to fix this. And any of this red pill stuff that you've read, you're going to have to fix yourself first. If you think you're going to fix your wife and all of a sudden make her horny again, good luck with that. Okay. It's not going to happen. You got to fix yourself. You got to work on yourself. And there's 2 good things here. First of all, you're going to get healthier. You're going to get the happy chemicals, endorphins and shit are going to start blowing through you, because you're going to start eating right. You're going to start exercising again. Now, your wife can either benefit from that, or she is going to end up not benefiting from that, and some other woman's going to. But either way, you got to take care of your own stuff first. And it really, it's a 3-pronged thing. I mean, it's body, soul, and and mental stuff. I mean, you just you got to take care of yourself first, because probably if you were like me, you're needy and you weren't doing things the way that you know, she probably expected you to do things. You weren't quite leading, or you were butting heads and all. You know, you can't fix anybody else. You got to fix yourself first and take step one. And the tough question is this worth fixing? And a lot of times it is. And too many times guys just bail, go, oh, it's too fucking hard. I'm out. You know, or the woman says, it's too hard. I'm out of here. You know, and they give up on something that could be pretty good if they both put the effort into it. But generally one person's got to start, and you have this negative spiral going down, and one person's got to stop the spiral and start to turn it around and try to make it go up again. And once you start putting forth your best effort, generally you'll see her start to come around too. The dread kind of kicks in, and you know, she'll start to, it's classic. Everybody talks about it. They say the same damn thing because it works. You know, it's the only way out, I think.
Positive thinking, man. I mean, it sounds like fucking hoopla half the time, but it's not like it's got real, I think in a relationship of that's that close to death, it's got real legs. Like, that's what I'm hearing from what you're saying. You have to be positive if you're going to fucking do it at all. Otherwise, get the fuck out.
I wrote a book called Love and Respect, and it was highly recommended by somebody I respect quite a bit. And women want to be loved, men want to be respected. Yeah, men want to be loved. Bullshit. Men want to be respected, right? And so that was the basis of this whole book. And this guy, of course, is written by a pastor. It's got some blue pill shit in it. But the fundamental basics of this thing is that you're going to love your wife whether you think she deserves to be loved or not. And hopefully the wife's on board if you're reading this book together, whatever. She's going to respect you whether she thinks you deserve respect or not. And that upward spiral keeps going and going. So, you know, you take care of yourself, do things right, and don't be a shithole to her. You know, treat her well. And if she rolls around, great. If she doesn't and she decides to jet or you jet, then you're just better off for, you know, the rest of your life anyway.
Yeah. Damn. Well spoken words.
Yeah, you always have to game. I mean, and I think Hunter said this many times, you have to keep gaming your wife. And that's something that men don't. Men are always on, and they hate the idea of always being on. They hate it. They want to relax. They want to have a place where, you know, they can just, and there's times they can do that, but boy, they have to be on. They have to constantly be pushing and constantly. That's the one thing that, if anything, the red pills taught me is the fact that you've got to always be on. You've got to always be, you know, bring your A game to everything. And if you're not tough enough, you need to get tougher. That's it. Yeah.
Damn. Let's move the conversation forward a little bit, and we can revisit this if we need to later with dead bedrooms. I mean, it's a topic that's got, I think, maybe not endless depth, but a lot. But this show Hunter wanted to do was also on navigating dating after divorce. Tex, you haven't quite been through that, but maybe you have some input. Tim, obviously, you've been through that quite a bit. For me, about the same, too. It's been about 3.5 years now since I've been single. I didn't legally get divorced because I wasn't legally married, but functionally it was almost identical. Mm-hmm. So I can hop into that too in a bit, but yeah, my experience has been wild. I mean, again, because I'd been in the manosphere for so long, familiar with all these things, it was just, yeah. I mean, for those who don't know, I went through this marriage, you know, this kind of 4.5-year relationship marriage thing, and 2 years of it was technically married in a way. I found out the wife at the time was a escort and had been for several years, a long time, including during the relationship. So that was a fucking doozy figuring that shit out. In addition to all sorts of other lying, conniving behavior, really extreme forms of like the worst elements of femininity. And so getting out of that, moving back to Orlando, about 3 hours from where I lived before, that was the whole experience in 2016 I went through. And that was wild. You know, I've been dating and, you know, doing pickup for years before I met her. I'd done, you know, for example, before I met her, I'd approached like probably 6,000 women or something like that. I didn't bang 6,000 women, of course, but I'd approached that many at bars and clubs. So I didn't have the same experience as you did, Tim, in terms of like social anxiety and stuff. Like I was kind of rusty, obviously, getting back into that, but within a few weeks, that ended up wearing off. But a lot of it was still new to me. I mean, it was when I was dating before, when I met her, you know, Tinder and Bumble, these dating apps did not exist. I didn't have an iPhone, and the apps themselves, I think, didn't exist at that point, almost at all. But getting back into that in 2016, I was like, look at these fucking tools I have now. In addition to going out, meeting women, all these things. So my experience since then has been, I'm still single now. I've had a couple relationships like you have, technically. I don't call them relationships because they're a little bit shorter. They last about 2 months tops. They don't make the 3 mark. That's my own thing too. And I've turned down many women at this point that have wanted to be in relationships. And sometimes that blows up in my face and they'll be screaming Colombian woman. And other times it burns down a fiery inferno. And other times it doesn't. And I'll bang them again 6 months later, a year later, or something like that. So I've had a really, my life is, pretty fucking wild in about 10,000 different ways. And dating post-divorce has been very consistent with that. But if you want to hop, I think if I hear your experience a little more, I can pop in with my own ideas and advice as we go.
Yeah, I think that my experience essentially was when I got divorced, I didn't know what to do. I just didn't know. And I was probably with a lot of guys. I knew that I wanted to get a divorce. So when I did that, I was the one that filed and everything. So I got out of it, and I essentially went, and I had heard so many guys who had just come out of divorce jump right back into online dating or whatever. And I had actually met my wife through eHarmony.
Well, I met mine through Plenty of Fish. So.
Yeah. See, so and it was just like, I decided that I was going to steer clear of it, at least in the beginning, so that I could hone some type of social skill. That was the whole point of me doing game, was like, I have to be able to, I own my own company. I was, I needed to be out there. I'm the face of the company, so I needed to be out there. So I had to hone my social skills, whether it be with women or men, just to get myself out there. So what I started doing is I started networking, and I started doing a lot of business events. I started doing a lot of just going to random bars and just sitting at the bar and talking up people just to do it. And it was hard at first, and a lot of guys don't know how to do that. But eventually I got to the point where I was talking up bar patrons. I was talking up servers and having dates with them. And it was just kind of all over the place. So, but I knew I was at least generating some kind of game, and I didn't have to go online to do that. A lot of these guys will just, the minute they're divorced, they'll jump right on and get into some disaster on Tinder or Bumble. And they've not learned anything. So my goal was to not be ignorant. I guess that was my whole goal. And I'm still learning to this day. So I'm sharing it with all my followers. I'm sharing what I'm learning. So it was just what it was. So.
Yeah, I can speak to that too, that you mentioned, immediately jumping into Tinder and Bumble and these things and online dating. And I actually waited, for all of 6 weeks. But for me, that felt like a lot, because I knew the minute this happened, I moved in with Socrates temporarily for like 2 weeks. And I found a place in Atlanta to move into longer term. For about 2 years, I lived there. And I knew, I was like, all right, I got on these apps and I started swiping, and these girls are matching with me, but I didn't want to, emotionally, I just wasn't ready for it. That much I could feel. I was like, this is a fucking absolute bomb in my life. The wife I'd been living with for all these years, is a fucking prostitute. So I needed to kind of deal with that. But even separate from that, I could feel, I was like, I'm not ready to like dive into this, and doing it could be dangerous. And I was more right than I knew looking back on it. Like, had I met the wrong woman at that time in my life, I could have easily knocked a girl up, done something stupid, STDs, all kinds of stuff. So I ended up waiting about 6 weeks before playing with it more seriously. And I got lucky right off the bat. I was able to bang a pretty decent 7, this nice little nurse, pretty quick. And it felt really good to, kiss a woman a new woman for the first time in a long time, fuck a new woman for the first time in a long time. So it was therapeutic to finally do that, but I'm glad I waited at least, minimal 6 weeks. Other guys I can imagine would need a lot more than that. And that got me into a good kind of roll after that. It was, it wasn't like every day or anything like that, but every few weeks I pick up a new one like that off Tinder or something like that. And then that kind of eased me back into going to bars and stuff like that, where it's a little more intense. Even having done it thousands of times at that point, it was different having not done it for, 4 and a half years at that point. So the rust was coming off, and that took a couple months to come off. Even to this day, I feel like I'm probably better at it now than I've ever been, but I still I would wonder sometimes, like self-doubt. I'm like, shit, was I better at like 22 or am I better at like, 31 now? I don't know.
Right. I mean, with all these apps and stuff, I mean, this is like women. Do they even have to leave their couch now? I mean, do they go to bars anymore? I mean, I'm not a single guy. I don't know all this stuff.
Half the time they're on their fucking phone playing around. Elliot Hulse says it's funny as shit when he talks about it. He's like, they're always, I forget the exact terms he uses, but they're always playing with their phone or charging the phone, playing with their phone, charging their phone. The charging bit is what got me, because I don't really think about that, but he's right.
Yeah.
Charging the shit constantly. But at bars now, Tex, you actually see that these young girls that are in their teens and 20s and stuff, they're on their phone constantly. Not literally the whole time, but it's a lot. And I've even seen, now this is kind of rare, but you'll even see some girls have like a fucking, some kind of beta orbiter, or maybe some like, probably not a beta, but more like some gay guy they know. Probably swiping on Tinder for her, which is, it's fucking nuts, man. So they'll be at a bar, they're getting hit on or something, and then there's some dude on their phone swiping Tinder for them. It's nuts, man.
As administrative assistant to outsource their swiping.
Yeah.
I think I wonder also, Tim, when you got out there and you're 40, now you're 43, you say, I mean, the available women that are out there now, are they all damaged as hell? I mean, are there some pretty decent ones out there still? I mean, people always talk, oh, they hit the wall at 30 and they're all messed up by 40.
I mean, there are, I mean, a lot of them are, I think a lot of them are having what we are seeing now, this kind of buyer's remorse. They were sold an idea about a life, living a life like a man. And, I always tell them that, it sucks, doing what men do sucks. If you're a woman and you're trying to do what a man does, because a man is, built for different types of things than a woman is. And when you try to have a career and focus on your career, well, all of a sudden these women are looking at it going, I want to have a child, or I want to, I've seen 40 plus year old women who are childless, who are just like, looking for kids on Bumble or whatever. And so it's like, I'm not looking for kids. I've had 2 kids. I'm good there, but I do see quite a few of them, but I also see some, I don't have an issue with single moms. I like single moms. They just have to be, I have to vet them. I dated, 2 single moms and 2 who were not single moms in my 4 relationships. And so they were, they were all very independent, but it's like, they almost to a fault, but I see a lot of it. I mean, I'm seeing more and more as I get out there, which is why I'm kind of sticking younger. I'm dating between 27 and 33. I mean, I'm kind of sticking in there. Now I dated a 23-year-old, and that was purely for the sex. And yeah, but I mean, it was good sex. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like, I mean, it's like, she wasn't bringing anything to the table in terms of anything else, because I obviously couldn't really talk to her, but I mean, we had enough to say to get her in the bedroom. So that's all that matters. And so it was like, but no, I mean, that's kind of why I'm sticking to 27 to 33, because at least, it's not their epiphany phase, but I'm also looking at women who maybe don't want to have kids. And so, is it picky? Yeah, but I can afford to be picky because I'm not worried about it. I have no plans. I enjoy my life the way it is. And if something happens, great. If it doesn't, that's just fine too.
Yeah. On the single mom issue, I've dated I've dated any of them technically, but I've, dated several of them in Orlando. It was a lot. And I find that, probably 70, 80% of them are pretty messed up, but there's still a good chunk left over that are not complete shit shows, that have a decent personality, or hot, or put together. Their life isn't a total train wreck. And it really, the more time goes by and the more I see these women, date these women, fuck these women, I do realize that there's like a chunk that's, not bad. And then there's a big chunk that's like not, you want to stay away from it. These are girls who hit me. These are girls that are single moms that have like, 3-year-old kid. They're hitting me up, and I don't want to get too open, but they're looking for, illicit stuff, for lack of a better term. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, you have a fucking kid. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you going to music festivals doing this shit?
Yeah. And
that's a whole single mother's a whole fucking issue in itself. But I can imagine it's something that you've dealt with or you've interacted with as a single father. And that's pretty minor. Single parenthood, I think, is like 80%, over 80% for mothers. It is pretty rare, like you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And my divorce was very interesting in the fact that we didn't hire lawyers. It's one thing I do a lot of divorce advice for these guys, because a lot of these guys are going through pretty rough stuff, and they don't know where to turn. So I'm here to kind of help them and guide them through their divorces and what they need to do. And so my divorce was a little bit interesting just because as the main breadwinner of the family, essentially, I was going to take 50% of I wasn't going to settle for anything less than 50% custody. And she knew that. So we ended up getting a mediator, and we didn't even get lawyers. We basically sat down for 4 mediation sessions at about $1,000 all in, and had it had it hammered out. And it was great because that's why I say there are women out there who are sensible. And a lot of these women who are sensible or the single mothers, especially, are the ones out there who are doing it alone and are not making excuses for doing it alone. My older sister is a fantastic single mom. She's raised 5 kids. Every single one of them is put together really well, and she's done a great job, but she's not made excuses. She's just said, you know what? I made mistakes with the fathers. They're dirtbags. So I'm just going to raise the kids, and I'm not going to make an excuse, and I'm just going to power through it. And, those are the kind of people, those are the kind of moms I like. Those are the kind.
Yeah. And you find some. I hooked up with a new one recently, like 2 weeks ago, and a lot better than what I've seen the other ones. A lot of the structural stuff would look the same to me. It was funny because she lived in the house, the same exact blueprint house as another single mom in here that swooped in on a friend of mine, is ruining his life.
Oh,
and so that was a very negative example, but this girl had a very similar setup, but everything was put together. Everything was clean. This chick was like respectful, respectful, submissive. Like it was good. Mm-hmm. And passed the bullshit detector for me, which I'm even at 3.5 years out from divorcing a hooker. I'm still like I'd say I'm hyper vigilant with a lot of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And sometimes to a fault, it's too far, too much. I'm, too paranoid at this point, but that's getting better over time. Tex, in your work with what you do and through your website, and guys hit you up, the guys you talk to, what are some of the things you've seen that help them post-divorce get back into dating, especially after, marriage and divorce or, kids?
Yeah, I think a lot of the ones, of course, that are hitting me up are talking a lot about, DNS stuff, because that's kind of what I tend to talk a lot about. And a lot of them are really interested as to how to cultivate that in a woman. Yeah. How do they find a submissive woman, this, that, and the other? And I think that's the biggest key, is what to just give them some ideas on how to lead, and I'm not a big dating guy, because I'm still dating the woman I've been dating for 30 years. Right. So I can't really give advice on that, but I can go back to some of the pickup stuff that you guys have talked about for years, bouncing, taking charge and going from one bar to the next and bouncing over to here. Yep. And having a plan and doing this stuff. And at the end of the day, that's a very dominant role. Right. I mean, if you read any pickup artist stuff, it's real dominating stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing we were talking about earlier, it's getting past that mindset that a nice guy wouldn't ever have rough sex, or, you got to realize, you got to feel, of course, you don't want to, you're safe, sane, consensual. You want to make sure that you're dealing with a woman that actually enjoys this kind of thing. Right. And you can kind of do the hair pull thing and a little bit of hair pull and figure out if she's into it or not, and then pull a lot of hair. Right. Yeah. But I'm just saying, I mean, it's there's so many women out there that don't have a man that can rock their world where they want it to be rocked.
I can interject a quick tip based very specifically of what you just said. I figured this out about a year ago exactly. I met this chick in a club who had the longest hair of any girl I've ever fucked in my life. It was like a Tomb Raider thing, down to like her knees. It was amazing. It was super hot. It was super hot, and it was like a braided kind of ponytail, just like braided ponytail too. So it caught my attention immediately. I ended up it was the most amazing sex of my life, to be honest. 6 hours like nonstop fucking. But what I did with her for the first time ever, and I've done it consistently since, her hair was so long that I was kind of, I was like 2 drinks in, but for me, that's a lot. I'm not used to drinking. So I started drinking at 27 a couple years ago. So I'm still pretty new to it. Anyway, I grabbed her hair, because it's long ass fucking ponytail, and I kind of just organically just wrapped around her neck in the club, just having met her. I mean, at that point we were about to make out. So it was contextual. It made sense, but pushing the boundaries, obviously pushing the border. And she was, of course, down with it. And first of all, she fucking loved it. I mean, this was something I had not done before, so I didn't know what exactly to expect, especially not in public. This was like in a fucking bar, right? And what I also noticed, of course, too, is the other girls all around me were just absolutely getting wet watching this. Mm-hmm. You could see them like turning their heads like, holy shit. But the point of this, though, is that it was a really good test for how she ended up acting the rest of that night. And this is something I'll do pretty much in every date now. As soon as I can, as soon as I get a makeout, or I'm about to get a makeout, if the girl's long enough hair, most of them do, I'll do something similar to this to see how they respond. And if they don't get into it, I immediately back off, of course. Mm-hmm. Right. But 99% of the time, they are into it. Mm-hmm. And it's such a goofy little thing, but you don't need, obviously there's no rope, you're in public, there's no belt, you're not choking her with your hands or anything like that, right? You're just grabbing her hair and you're gently just bringing it around and seeing what happens. And for me, it's like a really good little, there's probably a pickup, term for it, but it's basically it's an escalation test for what's going to happen later in the night. And I'm pinging for that. And if she's not into it, I might even just back out. I might just like roll off and say, all right, it's not going to be super amazing sex. This might not go anywhere. And my time is going to be better spent the next 90 minutes of my life in this bar, finding a chick who is into this kind of behavior.
Mm-hmm. So. And there's so many of them that are into this behavior. And of course, come on, we laughed about this last October. 50 Shades of Grey was the #1 selling paperback book of all times, right? There's a reason why. I mean, and that was the funny joke. I mean, my wife and I weren't doing good, and I actually downloaded that onto my iPad, and I'm reading it in bed one night. She walks by, she said, "What are you reading?" I'm like, "I'm reading 50 Shades of Grey." She's like, I can't believe you're reading that trash, And I'm like, well, I'm thinking pretty much going to figure out what all these women are trying to, millions of women are buying this book and reading it for some reason. I want to know why. Right. And that's what I tell guys that are newly divorced, like you were saying, Tim, take your time, relax. You got a number of years to get this down, figure out where you screwed up the first time. Don't do that again. Right. And then try to maybe change your tactics, change things that, figure out who you are first, and then, find something different to do. Don't just keep doing the same stupid shit you've been doing for all these years.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, post-divorce, one thing I found is I had an ex-fuck buddy who still lived in Orlando, and I hadn't talked to her in the last time I talked to her was when I got engaged, in which case she hit me up. Immediately I had all these girls hit me up from college, right, on Facebook.
Right, yeah.
But I hadn't talked to her at that point in 3-4 years, or even longer, really, any kind of in a meaningful conversation. So I ended up meeting up with her, and she ended up, too long of a story, but anyway, meeting up with her for wine was a really good experience. Mm-hmm. And that could have gone bad had she wanted to take advantage of me. I was in a very vulnerable emotional state, reeling from losing this relationship and this bizarre set of events that happened in my life. But it was a very good experience. And I would say that any guy who is recently divorced, if you have old fuck buddies, ex-lovers from a long time ago, probably if you're older especially, but if they're around and they're single, it's worth at some point after you're divorced looking into that, just meet up for wine or a drink or whatever the fuck. And that for me, that went really well. And that was actually that was one of the best moves I made. Mm-hmm. It was very positive interaction. It was very genuine for the most part. And it was good to see that. It was good at that point for me anyway, given my specific experience. It was good to feel that, very natural desire and attraction. And I didn't feel like she wanted to kill me or stab me or fucking
yeah.
So it was real. And I was like, this girl's hot too. This girl's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it worked out really well. But I wouldn't have thought of that. It was kind of random that it happened. It wasn't on purpose. But had I known, I would have done it even sooner.
Well, and that's something I'm finding is a lot of these girls divorced 3 years ago, April 1st. And there were girls at that time that I was interested in, and they were getting, married, or they were in long-term relationships. And so I kind of missed out on it. And so I just kind of hung back and let it kind of simmer and just focused on myself for a while. Well, now all of a sudden, within the last 8 months, I start seeing women start, hitting me up and going, and I write a lot about that on my Twitter timeline. I say, hey, this girl is, she's starting to hit me up because they start to see that I've raised my value. They start to see that all of a sudden I don't really give a shit anymore. And all of a sudden it's just like, oh, well, he just kind of popped up out of nowhere. And I'm like, well, I've always been here. And so I've just been grinding. And so I've been noticing that. I absolutely been noticing that. And to go back to the point about, sex when you're married, it's like women have fantasies. They have a lot of fantasies, but it seems like when they are talking with their husbands / boyfriends about these fantasies, and they don't even want to talk about it sometimes, but they are literally just embarrassed because what'll happen is they'll spill that fantasy to their boyfriend or husband, and he'll laugh it off, or he'll laugh at it. They have some of these really, very deep and very sensual fantasies, and their husbands and boyfriends will just laugh it off. So it takes away that edge, and it's just like, well, he doesn't care.
Every one of these fantasies is they want to feel like they are the object of, they want to be ravaged. They want to be that man's ideal, whatever, even if it's just for that night type of thing. It's why they don't want you watching porn, right, when you're married, because all of a sudden, you're giving all your sexual energy or all your desires going to some random woman over the internet. If guys can just figure out, if you can just, I always tell people, you're going to get a chance to make love to her or fuck her or both. do it like it's the last time you're ever going to do it on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, go into it with every bit of energy you got and make her walk out bow-legged and not able to walk and literally like she is that you just ravaged her and left her a puddle of goo, you know, and I think that when you start to look at it like that, it'll change the dead bedroom. Like even if you get mercy sex, right? You're going to get mercy sex. What are you going to just do? Bam, bam, and you're over. Nah, man, go into it. Do something different, right? She's still there, right? She's starfished for you, right? But who knows? Maybe do something a little different this time.
I could say some of the biggest moves for me in terms of improving like my sex life is being more impulsive and is doing what I want. But like you're saying, keep it sane, you know, safe and all these things. Sane, safe, and legal, I think is what you're saying, right?
That was safe, sane, and consensual. But how many times are guys out there go, oh, I got to make sure she gets off. Oh, I got to make sure she orgasms. Who cares? I mean, when you get that attitude, I don't care. I'm going to get mine. I hope you get yours. Yeah. Right. And you I'm getting graphic, pound away and have a good time. Right.
Right.
And in the process of that, she will lose all of her cares and abandon. But she gets in that middle frame where she's not worried about stuff and she's in another world. And the other trick is to talk, man. You got to use your voice. You got to tell her what you're doing and how she's looking to you, and you just get in her head, man. I tell you, this stuff is powerful.
Get in there. I was on a first date last night, just melting this girl, man. But specifically by getting in her ear, getting in, you know, this whispering and shit, and just I could feel her just fucking melting. But yeah, it's getting in her head. It's not even the specifics of whispering and these other things. Those are part of it. It's part of the pathway. But it's getting and fucking their mind.
And after 30 years of marriage, trust me, that's the only way this is gonna work. You got to get in her head, man. You got to play games. I mean, good stuff. You know, not fuck you games. You know?
Yeah. No, really, it comes down to me. For me, it's just been, at least from my life experience, my personality, it's been being more animalistic, more impulsive, more instinctual, and responding. But even I was thinking too, you just mentioned, I've thought a lot about dumb sub stuff, especially since you got involved with the convention, and it's of interest to me. I'm still not anywhere near where you're at, Tex, but it's of interest to me ongoing. And even with the female orgasm, I've been thinking that really, to them, that's just like a component of submission, especially if you're fucking them so hard that you're basically pulling it out of them and they lose control. And then that's like a demonstration of it. I really think it's more important to them to feel that than just the excitement of just, you know, for them busting an egg, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
I heard that one. Okay.
That's nice. I like that.
That's good. That's good.
Yep.
No, I had one woman who was so independent, who was so, she had a mind block about having orgasms. She just wouldn't do it because it did make her feel weak. It made her feel very, very vulnerable. And, they, especially ones who are independent, who have been single moms for a long time or whatever, they don't want to give up on that because if they do, that means that they're trusting you and they may not want to do that. So
a lot of times too, you'll find if a single mom came out of a marriage, they will have, they will have been in like a blue pill kind of beta relationship with this guy, and they were masturbating or cheating the whole time. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're not just rampant cheaters. Sometimes they just jerk themselves off for years, and they're like dying inside because they're not being dominated. So they've lost. I hear what you're saying, that they lose the ability to submit and to be submissive, and they get over focused on themselves, and they don't have a man to please for years, and so they lose that side of them kind of dies off. Mm-hmm. They have to rebuild that, and that takes time for them too. The same way a guy has to rebuild himself into an alpha, like you're doing. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, it's a very difficult situation, especially if you're, if you've gone years without it. And so it's not going to be something that's quick. And that's what most guys, like you said earlier, want. They want it quick. They want it easy. They want it painless. And it's none of those. And it's 3 years and I'm still working and every day and doing better and trying to continue to improve myself. And I will never be done. I'll be done when I'm dead. And that's about it.
Sounds good to me, man. Fuck yeah.
It's a lifelong journey. I mean, that's the secret. You can't quit. I mean, you just can't stop. So,
Tim, what's one of the more unusual things you've given as advice to someone hitting you up on DMs and stuff like that for post-divorce dating?
You will, and I don't know if you guys have ever got this, but manscaping.
Okay.
Manscaping.
Good. All right. I was not thinking this.
I have gotten DMs from guys about manscaping, and it was like they didn't. I mean, there was one guy that came up to me on DM and
like
said,
dick
"What
shots too, or what?"
Yeah, right. He goes, "What is manscaping?" And I said, "Okay, hold on a second." So I stopped everything. I went into another room and I started typing to him, and I was like, "Okay, if you don't know what manscaping is, we're going to have a chat about this," because he was married 2 decades and never manscaped. This is another thing that we talk about. You know, you've got to be on your game with your, and you can only imagine. I mean, I can't even imagine. I imagine he needed a machete and a flashlight to grab that stuff out. So,
Holy shit.
but no, I mean, manscaping, that's the big thing. You know, it's like showering every day, or, you know, basic hygiene, brush your teeth twice a day, at least. You know, when you're going out on a date, bring some gum, you know, but these guys, they just cannot. I mean, they have de-evolved so much into their beta cocoons almost that their wife was mothering them.
Yeah.
They just did not take responsibility for anything. And it's like, even if I'm not having regular sex, I'm still manscaping. Even if I'm not, you know, it's just part of my regimen. And it's like, you know, it just blew my mind. And I talked to the guys, and you just have to humor them because, you know, these guys are, they just woke up from a coma. They don't know what the hell's going on, and it's Planet of the Apes all over again. So we're just, you know, we got to show them what's going on and show them how to do things. And that was probably the most, I've gotten probably 3 or 4 different DMs on that, guys who did not know what manscaping was or needed to know what to do.
Out of all the things I've ever done with the convention and I don't even know, thousands and thousands of emails and shit, I have yet to get an email about manscaping. You are in a different component of the management. I did not expect this. That was what I was thinking.
Yeah, it just threw me for a loop because I just did not. I just assumed, and you know, I mean, there was a time that I knew about it my whole life, and I did it, and it was just like it was just natural to me. But I took more care about it when I was in marriage. You don't do it as much, and especially if you're a beta, you don't do it as much. And so now I'm just like, I'm proving myself, so I've got to take care of that stuff. And it's like these guys just don't think about it, and you just kind of roll your eyes and go, okay, well, we'll get you on the right path.
Yeah, I've heard this in other domains too. That just some of the basics with these things, it's so important, and especially in the West, you know, these kind of like this beta and like blue pill crap, you just lose sight of all that stuff. Yeah.
So Hunter's got this book and a program called 31 Days to Masculinity, and I'll give you a spoiler. One of the days is manscaping.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, because most guys don't have a clue, right? And you don't really think about it, but most don't. And again, there's really no one size fits all to fix all your problems. But I will say, there's that 31 Days to Masculinity program will go a long way towards spending the next 31 days trying to fix your shit. And whether you're married, whether you're single, whether you're divorced, whether you're in a dead bedroom or whatever, I couldn't more highly recommend that book. We actually did that program on the fly back in 2017 in March. And just some of us that knew Hunter on Twitter, and next thing you know, he was winging it half the time, right? You know, but the next thing you know, we got through 31 days, and there was probably 15 or 20 guys that did it, and it was pretty freaking cool. Next thing you know, he drew it up into a book, and since then we've been doing Fraternity of Excellence and been doing it a couple of, once a year type of thing. And I've seen this change guys' lives. So I'm just going to give a plug. Since I don't know who this Hunter guy is, since he's not here, but but I'm going to give a plug to his book and his program, because it's a pretty good deal.
I am doing believe it or not, and for everybody watching, I am doing the 31 Days to Masculinity on October 2nd. So, and the Fraternity of Excellence, I've already got quite a few guys who are going to be doing it with me. It's my first time doing it. So I told them to be gentle, but I'm looking forward to it. I am actually going to be doing it. I can't recommend that book enough. So
nice. Well, then quick commercial break, boys. This show is actually partly sponsored by Fraternity of Excellence. You can actually check the description of this video for a link to join FOE. In doing so, you support the Redman Group, and you can also check the description, but there should be a coupon code to get 10% off FOE, and it's code, I think it's RMG, just like Redman Group. So check out that link and you support the show. Same thing if you're watching this later on 21 Studios, it's also a sponsor of the show or the channel. So fuck yeah.
Let me give a plug, man. We got 21 convention coming up in October. And until October 1st, it's a BOGO. It's buy one, get one. Bring a friend, man.
Yeah.
You guys both get in at half price. And I tell you what, lives have been changed. I've been to 2 of these things now. I'm excited. I can't wait to get back out again, and I'm plugging it because I just absolutely love it. It's 4 or 5 days to get together, and we swap stories out by the pool in the hallways, smoking a pipe wherever, and the real work sometimes is done after hours. It's done in the hallways and the lounges and stuff. And I'm telling you, if you guys can still get there however you can. So.
Fuck yeah. And Tex, you're 100% right. Tickets are bring a friend free. All tickets bought before October 1st, 2019. And on top of that, they are $500 off until October 1st. The sale with all tickets to a 21Con events always, the price increases over time. Every few weeks or few months, the price goes up. So save $500 and bring a friend free before October 1st. Also, the tickets to the 2020 Patriarch Convention, the 21 Convention Patriarch Edition, those are going to go on sale. Well, they're not early bird next week, but they're going to be a pre-order for tickets going on sale next week to the public. So if you want to sign up for next year, the second edition ever of the 21 Convention Patriarch Edition for fathers, that'll be going on spring 2020. We'll put out the dates. We might put out a few of the speakers and the pre-order tickets. And those will be a big deal coming out next week, so stay tuned. Our first event of that was earlier this year. That was May 2nd to the 5th, May 3rd to the 5th. It was 3rd to the 5th, 2019. It was big. It was about 100 fathers showed up. It was fucking awesome. I was there, Tex was there, Elliot Hulse, Hunter. Hunter Drew was the keynote, chief patriarch, of course. It was a big deal.
What's really cool about Patriarchs is the first time we've ever done these workshops.
That's right.
You could just kind of get down behind closed doors, no cameras, no filming, none of that kind of stuff. And I sat in on a couple of them, and they were outstanding.
Yeah. Someone just asked, how old do you have to be to attend? I'm assuming he means to attend. Do you have to be 18 to attend? Otherwise, you need to come with a parent or guardian, your dad, basically. Some guys do. I know father brought his 13, 14-year-old son to Patriarch. But so if you're younger, you can go. You need a father to go with you, though. But yeah. And yeah, the workshops are fucking awesome, Tex. I agree. We did those in Poland, too. So they were new at Patriarch for the first time. We did more workshops behind the scenes. And those are the best part of the convention now, I think. That's what I'm hearing from the attendees anyway. The speeches are obviously, amazing. They're on YouTube and all that stuff later, months, years down the road. But the workshops are really cool. There's no recording and all that. And looks like a Patriarch in Poland that got really personal, really intimate, and just savage as fuck. I sat in on all of them for about 5-10 minutes each. But Jack Donovan, I got to hear his for about a good 15. And it was a savage as fuck. I could hear his tone of voice and what he was saying. And I knew he was speaking in a way and in terms that he doesn't use on Instagram and in public and stuff. Even speaking on stage, it's different because when the cameras are off, there's no censorship. You don't got to worry about shit. You're not going to get, 20 years from now, you're not going to get attacked for what you said. So yeah, the workshops are fucking amazing. And they're included with the tickets. And a lot of the speakers volunteer to do them. We set them up. Everyone has a good time, and they're pretty badass stuff. So, and we're going to have them, of course, too, the final event of the year here in Orlando coming up. October 24 to 27. Get your tickets now to the 21 Convention. Final of the decade. Fuck yeah. Well, boys, any final thoughts on the show topics today? Otherwise, we can close up here in a bit. So dead bedrooms, long-term relationships, arousal, attraction, dom sub, red pill. It's a whole basket of ideas.
I get back to one thing on dead bedroom. Is it worth fixing? And a lot of times it is if you're willing to put in the work. So make that decision first and then get your ass to work. Okay. Yeah. It didn't take you, it took a long time to get to where you're at, right? It's not going to happen overnight. It's like Tim was saying, stuff takes a while, but it's worth it. So.
And remember, you got this.
Absolutely. You got this.
I actually, I banged this really hot single mom once because it was super dicey. I was like, can I do this? Can I do this? It was a self-worth thing, right? Super smoking chick. And I read Tex's site at the last minute going out the door. And it was I just remember reading, it was remember, you got this. And I was like, I do fucking got this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It was amazing, dude. Totally dom sub shit. Yeah, dope.
TexasDom.com, helping guys get laid one spank at a time.
Yep. Here we go. Jim McGee. I remember this guy.
Yeah, Jimmy G.
Yeah. Appreciate the the shout out, man. Showing your experience like that, big time.
No, I will say that the one thing that I've learned more than anything else in this 3 years and where I've come is it's all on you guys. It's all on yourself. Look at that person in the mirror and find out what you want to do. The bottom line in all of this is finding your purpose, finding your convictions, and living your life the way that you want to live it. No one's going to tell you how to live your life. No one should be telling you how to live your life. And the stronger convictions, the stronger that you actually pursue your life's goals, the more you're not going to care about, the dead bedroom thing won't happen, because guess what? You're going to have a woman who's going to be sharing your purpose, sharing your goals, and supporting you. And I can't tell you how many of our patriarchs, especially in Fraternity of Excellence, are demonstrating that every day. And, I can't recommend that organization enough. Hunter's done a fantastic job.
Yep.
And one thing, just look in the mirror, guys, and you have to tell yourself, are you ready to work? Are you ready to get better? And are you ready to make a change? That's what I would do.
Fuck yeah. I gotta say, just hearing you say this, the patriarchs and, FOE and stuff, 2019 turned out to be the year that patriarchy and patriarchs came back into the cool vocabulary, at least in the manosphere. And I did not think about that, late 2018. That was not on my mind. Well, a little bit at the very end of December, obviously, but yeah, it's just funny that turned out. End of the decade, and now patriarchy is beginning to make its step back into culture.
Yeah, we're hated. We are hated.
They are.
Man, I love it.
Might as well
some more hate.
Yeah,
Embrace
we
some more
are.
hate, man.
Yeah.
Good.
There's a war on us, and there's a war on us. And once again, it's who are the guys that are going to stand, shoulder to shoulder, with our convictions held strong, and we're just standing there, and we are, we're going to just face whatever comes at us, and we're going to, pursue what we think is the most important thing. And we're not going to apologize for it. That is something that I refuse to do. I'm a strong male. I'm a strong single dad, and I refuse to buckle. And I'm not ever going to do that. So that's and bring it on. That's what I'm saying. If they want it, bring it.
This is an attitude I can completely endorse and support. Fuck yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, boys. I'm going to round out the show. Appreciate everyone tuning in live. Tex, Tim, thank you for your time. Hunter, we'll check in with him in a bit here on the phone, see how he's doing. I hope he's doing well with his sister and all that. Everyone else, see you every other Thursday, Patriarch Show on Redman Group channel, 8 p.m. Eastern every other Thursday. And the regular show, of course, every 11 a.m. on Saturdays on the Redman Group. And, of course, next week, there'll be tickets coming out, pre-order for the 2020 Patriarchs Convention, as well as, of course, tickets are on sale to the 21 convention until the end of the month. Buy one, get one free, $500 off. Peace out. Text Tim. Thank you very much.